What's up, guys? It's your man KP67s bringing you another Imperial Academy review where we talk about different Empire characters, their usage, and whether or not I would recommend you focus on them. We've already covered the Stormtrooper and the Shore Trooper, both of which I highly recommend. The next one that we're going to be going over is the Deathtrooper. Now, the Deathtrooper is the first Imperial attacker that I'll be talking about. I highly recommend you get him. He is an Imperial trooper, and as you can see, I maxed out his gear recently to full gear 12 max so far. So overall, he's pretty tanky in terms of his health and protection. I built him pretty speedy, and I've also maximized his critical damage. I highly recommend you maximize his critical damage, and I'll get into that. His potency, pretty high, but I'm thinking about dropping it. Again, I'll get into that. Surprisingly for an attacker, his physical damage isn't the highest in the world. Guys like Snow Trooper and Magma Trooper actually will have a higher base attack compared to Death Trooper, but there's a reason for this, and again, I'll get into that. Physical survivability, his armor is decently okay. Obviously, this is patched over by certain unique effects, i.e. Stormtroopers sharing defense across the board for all troopers. If you want to look at the Stormtrooper character review over here, you can go ahead and do so you can learn more about that. So, where can you find his shards? Currently, there's only one place that you can, and that's in the Cantina Node 8A. This is one of the higher Cantina nodes, unfortunately, so collecting his shards can be a little painstaking. But if you want to focus on Empire, I really recommend that if you don't have any other characters you're worried about right now in Cantina, if you're doing okay on mods, put some energy into farming him. With respect to Death Trooper's gear, his gear is not the most atrocious in the world. That being said, however, he does require 250 Carbanti pieces, so about 5 Carbantis, 4 Mark 6 hypo syringes, and 3 stun guns. Altogether, that can sound a little heavy duty, but honestly, if you've geared General Kenobi, Death Trooper looks like a cakewalk in comparison. His abilities here, I'm also going to have little clips kind of playing off to the side as well. So first off, we have Track Down, which deals 70% physical damage with a 70% chance to inflict daze. If the target was already dazed, they're stunned. And if the target is a rebel, he gets to shoot them again. So all in all, if it's a rebel, he gets to shoot twice. And he can either he can either daze or daze and stun, or because, potency and tenacity and all this other noise and the fact that it's not guaranteed, do nothing. By and large, it's very good at controlling rebels, especially because he gets to shoot them twice. However, if RNG does not go your way and he does not end up stunning, you can actually get, in the current CLS meta, you can actually get rebels coming back and countering twice. So that can be a problem, but at the same time, it's very, very good for control, so I would look the other way. His first special here is the Death Trooper Grenade, where he deals physical damage to all enemies and dispels all buffs, and again, a 70% chance to inflict healing immunity for 2 turns. Enemies who weren't buffed have their cooldowns increased by 1. This is also a pretty clutch move if you open up early with the Death Trooper to not debuff everybody, but if you're starting him off early, i.e. with a Thrawn TM swap, he puts cooldown on everybody similar to how Nihilus would put cooldown on somebody. This has received a little bit of a nerf recently, as when CLS puts up his call to action buff and Boba Fett has his Bounty Hunter's Resolve buff just hanging over his head, other locked buffs, special unique buffs, this cooldown does not dispel it and does not increase the cooldowns of that character. So that's a little annoying because it was the best way to control a relatively fast Boba Fett, but you have to find another way around it now. His next special, this special is a beauty, Terminate. He deals physical damage. If they're suffering any debuffs, this attack is guaranteed to critically hit. This is why you need to maximize his critical damage. And this is why you also pair him with Krennic, because Krennic's unique grants him an extra 10% critical chance for every debuffed enemy, I believe, and 10% critical damage for every rebel enemy. So if you have a team of 5 rebels, he's gaining 50% critical damage on top of his 216% critical damage. So he can punch a hole in people, as you can see. If there are any defeated enemies, he will inflict the death mark. And the death mark essentially makes that character completely paper thin. You know, I've done fun things like, you know, a Krennic AoE with Deathtrooper shooting him twice. I've done things, if it's a last character, I'll put on a death mark and then use Thrawn to fracture murder the thing. It's really funny to see. And finally, extra bonus, targets defeated by Terminate can't be revived. This applies to whether or not you apply death mark. If you kill them in a Terminate, which at max gear now, he definitely can. And or if he did have the death mark and kill them, they can't come back from that. And then finally, we have his unique Krennic's Guard, which is actually a Zeta, and I've actually maxed it out here. So whenever Deathtrooper scores a critical hit, he and Director Krennic recover 20% health. Whenever Director Krennic is shot at or hit, Deathtrooper has a 50% chance to gain 100% turn meter. So that means he can go right away sometimes if Krennic takes damage. And finally, a key thing here, Director Krennic can't be critically hit when Deathtrooper is alive. Director Krennic is a very, very squishy character, so the fact that you can't critically hit him as long as Deathtrooper is around is a huge bonus at his survivability. And then the Trooper bonus, while Deathtrooper is active, Imperial Troopers have 10% health steal. This can be pretty big with different Trooper characters because, you know, health steal isn't exactly the highest for a lot of characters. You could be sitting at 5 or 10%, so this can actually bump you to 15 to 20%, or even more depending on what new pieces of gear different characters gain. So now that we've gone, and then like I said, his Zeta is mostly just gaining the extra bits to help out Director Krennic. So going over that, we're going to go over his mods really quickly. I currently have him modded as 4 critical damage, 2 critical chance. I recommend you structuring him this way to maximize his damage. Honestly, because of his Zeta, speed isn't necessarily the biggest thing to think about here. I have him faster because I like him to be faster, and I have the mods to actually make him faster, but you need to maximize, I would honestly maximize his offense and his critical damage as much as possible with critical chance. Obviously speed up there, critical damage triangle. I currently have potency, but I'm considering switching it out for offense. I just want to get an offense cross, which is a little closer to the 17 speed, so I don't feel so bad slowing him down. And like I said, guys, honestly, when it comes to secondaries on him, your major secondaries you should be thinking about, obviously speed is nice, but offense and critical chance are big for him. Obviously, some protection won't hurt either, but those are my suggestions for modding at least. With respect to Deathtrooper's uses, he could be used anywhere. He can be used in Arena with the standard Arena team that you kind of saw me displaying a little earlier. He can be used in Galactic War under General Veer's Zeta with a bunch of other troopers, and they will clean house in Galactic War. Like, you can get through everything up to at least a node 9 or a node 11, depending on how RNG favors you. But they all can clear it up to at least node 11, the hard node, if you haven't broken your node 12. You can also use him in the heroic AAT tank with Stormtrooper, General Veers, Magma Trooper, and Snow Trooper, and they do very, very good damage. Whenever I get a chance, I will record, a quick run through the heroic AAT just to demonstrate this. Besides that, he also has a ship, and he shares this ship with the Shore Trooper, and it's the TIE Reaper. Again, like I said before, I wish the TIE Reaper was farmable. It currently is not, and it is a dang shame. But when it is farmable, you can bet that I will put like a ton of energy and time into farming up the Reaper. So my overall recommendation for the Deathtrooper is that he is a big necessity, especially if you want to run Director Krennic. Deathtrooper is viable by himself. I don't recommend just running Krennic by himself, but Deathtrooper by himself is viable. But obviously, the two of them paired together are very, very good. I know that a lot of people kind of look the other way with Deathtrooper and Krennic because of the fact that Chase was released before them, and everybody was just gung-ho about the blind guy and like, you know, honestly, a big fat guy with a giant, like, you know, oversized super soaker on his pack. But honestly, a lot of people slept on Krennic and Deathtrooper, and, you know, I feel bad for them because they don't realize just how powerful a duo these two can be. So that's it, guys. That concludes the review here. Honestly, you know, Deathtrooper, you need to have him in your stable of characters if you're an Empire player. Put the time in, gear him up, just like always. He's my first Gear 12, max Gear 12 here, and I don't regret it at all. I'm really happy, and I'm excited to keep using him in Arena. His damage is amazing, thanks to his synergy with Krennic. And yeah, that's my take on it. If you have any kind of opposing views or any comments to make, please go ahead and leave them. If you like the video, leave a like as well. All right, guys, have a good night.